Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Christian Marshall. I am the director of An Ideal Husband, written by Oscar Wilde. Thank you for coming this afternoon to the Alpha NYC Theater's production of An Ideal Husband. I'm sure you will enjoy yourselves. A few rules that we would like to get out of the way. First of all, there is no photography or recording whatsoever unless you have permission from the director. And there's only one person that's permission. So no photography or recording, everyone. Also, please turn your cell phones on silent or off. And also make sure the dim is down as well, like the light is down, in case you do happen to have to look at your phone, because we have people around you and you don't want to be that person, right? Also, if they're in case of emergency, whether it's a fire, a flood, tuberculosis, or whatever, the exit is here, stage right, audience left. And we ask that if something does happen, we go out in an orderly fashion. Also to keep in mind, there are other shows with Alpha that will be going on here in this very theater. Tonight at 7 and 9, Shit, the musical parody of It, will be performed. If you want a good hearty chuckle, that would be a good one to go to. It's only an hour long, so and Alice Cameroda is directing that. If you want to stay and watch that. Otherwise, welcome to An Ideal Husband, and I hope you enjoy the show.
Thank you.
Mrs. Marchmont, Lady Bosselman.
Horribly tedious parties they give, don't they?
Horribly tedious. Never know why I go.
I come here to be educated.
Oh, I hate being educated.
Oh, so do I. It puts one on a level with the commercial classes, doesn't it? But dear Gertrude Chilton is always telling me that I should find some serious purpose in life, so I come here to try to find one.
I don't see anybody here tonight who one could possibly call serious.
Lord Caversham.
A man who took me into dinner and talked to me about his wife the whole time.
How horribly trivial of him.
Terribly trivial. What did your man talk about?
About myself.
And were you interested?
Not in the slightest.
What martyrs we are, dear Margaret.
And how well it becomes us, Olivia.
Good evening, Lady Chiltern. I don't suppose you've seen my good friend, the young son. Has he been here?
I don't think Lord Goring has arrived yet.
Why do you call Lord Goring good for nothing?
Because he leads such an idle life.
How? He rides in the Row at 10 o'clock in the morning, goes to the opera 3 times a week, changes his clothes at least 5 times a day, and dines out every night of the season. You don't call that leading an idle life, do you?
You are a very charming young lady.
How sweet of you to say, Lord Caversham. Do come to us more often. You know we're always at home.
I never go anywhere now. Sick of London society.
Oh, I love London society. I find it immensely improved. It's now entirely composed of beautiful idiots and brilliant lunatics. Just what society should be.
Which is Goring.
Obliged at the present to put Lord Goring into a class by himself. But he's developing charmingly.
Yes, but into what?
I hope to let you know very soon, Lord Caversham.
Lady Markaby, Mrs. Cheapley.
Good evening, dear Gertrude. So kind of you to let me bring my friend, Mrs. Cheapley. 2 such charming women should know each other.
Mrs. Cheapley and I have met before. I did not realize she had married a second time.
Ah, nowadays people marry as often as they can, don't they? It's most fashionable. Ah, the Duchess, and how is the Duke? Brain still weak, I suppose?
But have we really met before, Lady Chilton? I've forgotten all about my school days.
Yes, we met at school, Mrs. Cheapley.
Indeed. I have forgotten it all. I have a vague impression that my school days were all detestable.
I'm not surprised.
Do you know that I quite look forward to meeting your clever husband? Since he has been at the Foreign Office, he's been so much talked of in Vienna.
I hardly think there would be much in common between you and my husband, Mrs. Chipley.
I can't deny, Jack.
Oh, chérie, madame. Yes, so please. I have not seen you since.
Not since Berlin, 5 years ago.
And you look more beautiful than ever. How do you manage it?
By making it a rule only to talk to perfectly charming people like yourself.
Oh, you flatter me. Good evening, Lady Markbeer. I hope you brought Sir John with you.
Oh, I have brought someone much more charming than my husband. John's temper, since he has taken seriously to politics, has become quite unbearable. Really, now that the House of Commons is trying to make itself useful, it does a great deal of harm.
I should hope not. At any rate, we try to waste the public's time, don't we? But who is this charming person you brought with you?
Her name is Mrs. Cheveley. One of the Dorsetshire Cheveleys, I suppose. I really don't know. Families are so mixed nowadays. Everybody turns out to be somebody else.
Cheveley. I seem to know the name.
She has just arrived from Vienna.
Ah, yes, I think I know who you mean.
She goes everywhere there and tells the most pleasant scandals about all her friends. Oh, let me introduce you, my dear. Sir Robert Chiltern is dying to know you.
Everybody's dying to know the brilliant Mrs. Cheveley. Our attaches at Vienna write to us about nothing else.
Thank you, Sir Robert. An acquaintance that begins with a compliment is sure to develop into a real friendship. It starts in the right manner. And I find that I know Lady Chiltern already.
Really?
Yes. She has just reminded me that we were at school together. I remember it perfectly now. She always got the good conduct prize. I have a distinct recollection of Lady Chiltern always getting the good conduct prize.
And what prizes did you get, Mrs. Cheveley?
My prizes came a little later on in life, and I don't think any of them were for good conduct.
I am sure they were for something charming.
I don't know that women are always rewarded for being charming. I think they're usually punished for it.
I fear I can hardly agree with you there. But do sit down. Now tell me, what is it that makes you trade your brilliant Vienna for our gloomy London? Or perhaps the question is indiscreet.
Questions are never indiscreet. Answers sometimes are.
At any rate, might I know if it is for politics or pleasure?
Politics are my only pleasure. You see, nowadays, it is not fashionable to flirt till one is 40, or to be romantic till one is 45. So we poor women who are under 30, but at least here we are, have nothing open to us but politics and philanthropy. And I prefer politics. I think we are more becoming.
A political life is a noble career.
Sometimes. And sometimes it is a clever game. Sometimes it is a great nuisance.
And which do you find it?
A combination of all three.
But you still have not told me what makes you honour London so suddenly. Our season is almost over.
Don't care about your London season. It is too matrimonial. People are actually hunting for a husband or hiding from them. The truth is, I wanted immensely to meet you and to ask you to do something.
I hope it is not a little thing, Mrs. Cheveley. I find little things so very tedious to do.
No, I don't think it is a little thing.
I'm glad to hear it. Tell me what it is.
Later on. And now may I walk through your beautiful house? I hear you have some wonderful pictures. Poor Baron Arnheim. Do you remember the Baron? He used to tell me that you have some wonderful Corot.
Did you know Baron Arnheim well?
Intimately. Did you?
At one time.
Wonderful man, wasn't he?
Yes, he was very fascinating in many ways.
I often think it's such a pity he never wrote his memoirs. It would have been most interesting.
Yes, he knew men and cities well, like the old Greek.
Lord Goring.
Good evening, my dear Arthur. Mrs. Cheveley, let me introduce you to Lord Goring, the idlest man in London.
I have met Lord Goring before.
I did not think you would remember me, Mrs. Cheveley.
My memory is under admirable control. And are you still a bachelor?
I believe so.
How very romantic.
Oh, I am not at all romantic. I'm not old enough. Are you staying in London long, Mrs. Cheveley?
That depends partly on the weather, partly on the cooking, and partly on Sir Robert.
You're not going to plunge us into a European war, I hope.
There is no danger at present.
You're very late.
Have you missed me?
Awfully.
Then I wish I had stayed away longer. I love being missed.
How very selfish of you.
Yes, I am very selfish.
Lord Goring, you're always telling me about bad politics.
I've only told you half of them, Miss Peggy.
On the other
is very bad?
Quite dreadful. When I think of dinner tonight, I go to sleep at once.
Well, I delight in all their qualities.
How very kind of you. By the way, Miss Mabel, I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Who brought Mrs. Cheveley here?
Oh. Lady Markby, I suppose. Why do you ask?
Well, I haven't seen her for years, that's all.
What an absurd reason.
All reasons are absurd.
Well, what sort of a woman is she?
Why, she is a genius in the daytime and a beauty at night.
I dislike her already.
That shows your admirable good taste.
His Grace, the Bishop of Bristol.
Mademoiselle, may I have the pleasure of escorting you to the music room?
Delighted. I'm delighted. But are you coming to the music room?
Not if there's any music going on, Miss Mabel.
The music is in German. You would not understand it.
Well, what are you doing here? You should be in bed. Can't make out how you stand London society. Whole thing has gone to the dogs. Father, damn, nobody's talking about nothing.
I love talking about nothing, Father. It's the only thing I know anything about. Good evening, Lady Castleton.
Are you here? I had no idea you ever came to political parties.
Oh, I adore political parties. They're the only place left to us where people don't talk politics.
I delight in talking politics. I talk them all day long, but I can't bear listening to them.
Agreed. When one listens, one may be convinced. And the man who allows himself to be convinced by an argument is a thoroughly unreasonable person.
I am afraid Lord Goring is in the camp of the enemy as usual. I heard him talking to that Mrs. Cheveley when he came in.
What a handsome woman, Mrs. Cheveley.
Please, don't praise other women in our presence. You might wait for us to do that.
I did wait.
Well, we are not going to praise her. I hear she went to the opera on Monday and told Tommy Rupert at supper that as far as she could see, London society was entirely made up of dowdies and dandies.
She is quite right, too. The men are all dowdies and the women are all dandies, aren't they?
Oh, do you really think that is what Mrs. Cheveley meant?
But of course, and what a sensible remark from Mrs. Cheveley to make, too.
Are you talking about Mrs. Cheveley? Everyone's talking about Mrs. Cheveley. Lord Goring says... was it who said that? I remember. It was that she was a genius in the day and a beauty at night. What a horrid combination. So very unnatural.
Me personally, I prefer looking at geniuses and listening to beautiful people.
How very morbid.
Is it morbid to have a desire for food? I have a great desire for food. Lord Goring, will you give me some supper?
With pleasure. Will you excuse us?
Certainly.
How horrid. You have never talked to me the whole evening.
How could I? You went away with the child diplomatist.
You might have followed. Pursuit would have only been polite. No, I don't think I like you at all this evening.
Well, I like you immensely.
But I wish you'd show it in a more marked way.
Olivia, I think I should like some supper.
I am positively dying for supper, Margaret.
Men are so selfish, they never think of these things.
Men are grossly material. Grossly material.
May I have the honor of taking you down to supper?
I never take supper. Thank you, Behold. But I will come down with you. With pleasure.
I'm quite fond of eating. I'm very English in my taste.
You look quite English, Behold.
English.
And are you visiting any of our country houses before you leave England, Mrs. Cheveley?
Oh, I can't stand your English parties. In England, people are actually trying to be brilliant at breakfast. My stay in England really depends on you, Sir Robert.
Seriously?
Quite seriously. I want to talk to you about the Argentine Canal Company, in fact.
What a tedious practical subject for you to talk about, Mrs. Cheveley.
Oh, but I like tedious practical subjects. What I don't like are tedious practical people. You are Lord Radley's secretary, weren't you? When the government bought the Suez Canal ship?
Yes, but the Suez Canal was a great and splendid undertaking. It had imperial value. This Argentine scheme is no more than a commonplace stock exchange swindle.
A speculation, Sir Robert. A brilliant, daring speculation.
It was a swindle. Let us call things by their proper names, Mrs. Cheveley. It makes matters much simpler. We have all the information about it at the Foreign Office. The work's barely begun, and as for the money already invested in it, no one seems to know what's become of it. You didn't invest in it, did you? I imagine you're much too clever to have done that.
I have invested very largely in it.
Who could have advised you to do such a foolish thing?
Baron Arnheim.
Oh, yes. I remember hearing at the time of his death that the Baron had been mixed up in the whole affair.
It was his last romance.
But you have not yet seen my Corot, and I have shown them to you. They're in the music room.
I am not in the mood for paintings tonight. I want to talk business.
I'm afraid I have no advice to offer you, Mrs. Cheveley, except to interest yourself in something far less dangerous. The success of the canal depends entirely on the attitude of England, and I plan to lay my report of the Commissioner's findings before the House tomorrow night.
That you must not do so, Robert. For your own interest, to say nothing of mine. You must not do that.
In my own interest? Mrs. Cheveley, what do you mean?
I will be quite frank with you, Sir Robert. I want you to withdraw the report that you have intended to lay before the House, on the ground that you have reasons to believe that the commissioners have been prejudiced or misinformed or something. Then I want you to say a few words to the effect that the government is going to reconsider the question, and that you have reasons to believe that the canal, if completed, will be of great international values.
You cannot be serious in making me such a proposition.
But I am! And if you do what I ask you to do, I will pay you very handsomely.
Pay me?
Yes.
I'm afraid I don't quite understand what you mean.
Oh, very disappointing. And I've come all the way from Vienna in order that you should thoroughly understand me.
If you don't mind, I think I'll call you a carriage. You have lived so long abroad, Mrs. Cheveley, you seem to be unable to realize you're talking to a man.
A man who laid the foundation of his fortune by selling to a stock exchange speculator a cabinet secret.
What do you mean?
I mean that I know the real origin of your wealth and career, and I have got your letter too.
What letter?
The letter you wrote to Baron Arnheim when you were Lord Radley's secretary, telling the Baron to buy Suez Canal ships. The letter written 3 days before the government announced its own purchase.
It's not true.
You thought that letter has been destroyed. How foolish of you! It is in my possession.
The affair to which you allude was no more than a speculation. The House had not yet passed the bill. It still might have been rejected.
It was a swindle, Sir Robert. As is called things by their proper names. It makes everything simpler. And now I'm going to sell you that letter. And the price I ask for it is your public support for the Argentine scheme. You made your fortune out of one canal. Now you must help me and my friend make our fortune out of another.
I will not do what you ask of me.
It is not for you to make terms. It is for you to accept them. And supposing you refuse,
What then?
why, you will be ruined, of course. Scandals used to lend charms or interest to a man. Now they crush him. And yours is a very nasty scandal. You couldn't survive it. If it were known that you sold a cabinet secret for a large sum of money and that that was the origin of your wealth and career, you would be hounded out by public life. And after all, why should you sacrifice your entire future rather than deal diplomatically with your enemy? For the moment, I am your enemy, I admit it. And I am much stronger than you are. Years ago, you did a clever, unscrupulous thing. It turned out to be a great success. Now you have got to pay for it. Sooner or later, we all have to pay for what we do. Unfortunately, you have to pay now.
I will give you any sum of money you want.
Oh, my dear Sir Robert, even you are not rich enough to buy back your car.
Wait a moment, you said you would give me back my letter.
Yes, that is what I agreed. I will be at the Ladies' Gallery tomorrow at 11:30. If by that time you have made a speech, I shall hand you back your letter with the prettiest thanks. And the best, or at any rate, the most suitable compliment I can think of. I intend to play quite fairly with you, Sir Robert. One should always play fairly when one has the winning cards.
Wait! You must give me time to consider your proposal. Give me a week. 3 days.
Impossible. I'm going to tell from Vienna tonight.
My God, what brought you into my life?
Circumstances.
Don't go. I consent. I shall have the report withdrawn and a question will be put to me on the subject.
Thank you. I knew we would come to an amicable agreement. I understood your nature from the first. And now you can fetch me my carriage, Sir Robert.
Well, dear Mrs. Paisley, I do hope you have enjoyed yourself. Sir Robert is very entertaining, is he not?
Most entertaining. I have enjoyed my talk with him immensely.
He's had a very interesting and brilliant career, and he has married a most admirable wife. I myself am a little too old now to trouble about setting a good example, but I always admire those who do. And now I must go. Shall I call for you tomorrow? Thank you. Perhaps we might ride in the park at 5. Good night, dear Gertrude.
What a charming house you have, Lady Chilton. I have had a delightful evening. It has been so interesting getting to know your husband.
Why did you wish to meet my husband, Mrs. Cheveley?
I wanted to interest him in this Argentine canal company, of which I dare say you have heard. And I have found him most susceptible to reason, I mean. I convinced him in 10 minutes. He is going to make a speech in the House tomorrow night in favor of the idea.
That is impossible. My husband can never support such a scheme.
Oh, I assure you, it's all quite settled. I don't regret my tedious journey from Vienna now, but of course, for the next 24 hours, the whole thing is a dead secret.
A secret? Between who?
Between your husband and myself, of course.
Your carriage is here, Mrs. Cheveley.
Thank you. Good evening, Lady Chilton. Good night, Lord Goring. I am at the Claridge's. Won't you leave a card?
If you wish it, Mrs. Cheveley.
Don't be so solemn about it, or I shall be obliged to leave a card on you. Sir Robert, now that we have both the same interests at heart, we shall be great friends, I hope.
What a horrid woman.
You should go to bed, Miss Mabel.
Lord Goring.
My father told me to go to bed an hour ago. I don't see why I shouldn't give you the same advice.
Lord Goring. You're always ordering me out of the room. I find it most courageous of you, particularly as I'm not going to bed for hours. Oh. What is this?
I wonder who dropped it.
It's a beautiful brooch.
It is not a brooch, it's a bracelet.
It isn't a bracelet, it's a brooch.
But it can be used as a bracelet.
What are you doing?
Miss Mabel, I'm going to make a rather strange request of you.
Oh, pray do. I've been waiting all evening for it.
Don't mention to anybody that I've taken charge of this brooch. If anybody should write to claim it, let me know at once.
It is a strange request.
You see, I gave this brooch to someone once years ago.
You did?
Yes.
I shall certainly bid good night. Good night, Gertrude. Good night, dear. You saw the lady Mark we brought here tonight.
Yes. It was an unpleasant surprise. What did she come here for?
Apparently, to try and lure Robert to uphold some fraudulent scheme in which she is interested.
Well, I should fancy that she came to grief as she tried to lure Robert in her toils. It is astounding what extraordinary mistakes clever women make.
I don't know what kind of them are clever. I call them stupid.
Same difference often. Goodbye, Lady Chilton.
Good night.
You're not going, Arthur. Do stop a little.
I'm afraid I can't. I promised to look in at the hot list. I believe they have a Hungarian band that plays Hungarian music. I'll see you soon, Robert. Good night.
How beautiful you look tonight, Gertrude.
But it is not true, is it? You're not going to lend your support to this Argentine speculation.
Who told you that I intend to do so?
Mrs. Cheeverly, as she calls herself now. She seemed to taunt me with it. Robert, I knew this woman. We were at school together. She was untruthful and dishonest. I despised her. She was sent away for being a thief.
Perhaps Mrs. Cheeverly has changed since then. No one should be judged entirely by their past.
One's past is what one is. It is the only way by which people should be judged.
That's a hard saying, Gertrude.
It is a true saying, Robert. And what did she mean by boasting that she had got you to lend your support to this thing that I have heard you call a most fraudulent and dishonest scheme?
I was mistaken in the view I took. We all may make mistakes.
But you told me that you had received the report from the Commission and that it entirely condemned the whole thing.
I have reason now to believe the Commissioner's findings were prejudiced, or at any rate misinformed.
Robert, are you telling me the whole truth?
Gertrude. Truth is very complex. And politics is a very complex business. There are wheels within wheels. At one point, someone might be under a certain obligation to someone one must pay. Sooner or later in political life, one has to compromise.
Compromise? Robert, why are you changed?
I am not changed, but circumstances alter things.
Circumstances should never alter principle.
But what if I told you that,
What?
that it was vitally necessary?
It can never be necessary to do what is dishonest. Robert, you are different. To the world as to myself, you have been an ideal. Be that ideal still. When we women lose our love, we lose everything. Oh, don't kill my love. Don't kill that. I know that there are men who have horrible secrets in their lives, men who have done some shameful thing. Don't tell me that you are such as they are. Our lives may drift apart.
Drift apart.
It would be better for us both.
Gertrude, there is nothing from my past life which you may not know.
Robert, I was sure of it. Never let us talk about this subject ever again. You will write to Mrs. Cheeverly and tell her you cannot support this scheme of hers. If you've given her any promise, you must take it back.
I might see her personally, it would be better.
No, you must never see her again. She is not a woman you should ever talk to. She does not deserve to speak to a man like you. No, you will write to her at once, now, this moment.
You mean right now?
Yes.
But it is so late.
That doesn't matter. She must know that she was mistaken in you, and that you were not a man to do anything base or underhand or dishonest. Write to her and tell her that you cannot support this scheme of hers as you hold it to be dishonest. Yes, write that word. She was dishonest. Yes, that will do. And now the envelope. Hotel at once. There is no answer. I feel that I have saved you from doing something that might have been a danger to you. You have brought into the political life of our time a nobler atmosphere, and for that I love you.
Love me always, Gertrude. Love me always.
Robert, this is a very awkward business, very awkward indeed. You should have told your wife the whole thing. No man should have a secret from his own wife. She invariably finds it out. Women have a wonderful instinct about things. They can discover everything except the obvious.
Arthur, I couldn't tell my wife. I would have lost the love of the one woman in the world I worship. She would have turned away from me in horror and contempt. And besides, whom did I wrong by what I did? No one.
Except yourself.
Of course, I had private information about a certain transaction and I acted on it. Private information is practically the source of every large modern fortune.
And public scandal invariably the result.
Do you think it's fair that a man's entire career should be ruined by a fault done in one's boyhood almost? I was 22 at the time. Do you think it's fair that the sin of my youth should rise up to destroy everything I've built, all that I've worked for? Is that fair, Arthur?
Life is never fair, Robert. And perhaps it is a good thing for most of us that it is not.
Every man of ambition must fight his century with its own weapons. The god of this century is wealth. To succeed, I needed wealth.
Without wealth, you could have succeeded just as well.
When I was old, perhaps, when I had lost my desire for power, I could no longer use it. When I was old and worn out, disappointed. I wanted my success when I was young. Youth is the time for success. I couldn't wait. And if it is all taken away from me now, if I lose everything over some horrible scandal...
Robert, how could you have sold yourself for money?
I did not sell myself for money. I simply bought success at a great price. That is all.
But what made you think of doing such a thing?
Bear on.
Damn scoundrel.
No, he was one of the most intellectual men I've ever met.
I prefer a gentlemanly fool any day. There's more to be said for stupidity than people imagine, I suppose. But how did he do it?
One night after dinner at Lord Radley's, the Baron began talking to us about success in modern life. With that wonderfully low, fascinating voice of his, he expounded to us about the most terrible of all philosophies. Philosophy of power. He must have seen the effect it produced on me, for days afterward he called and asked me to come see him. I remember well how, with a smile on his pale, curved lips, he told me that luxury is but a background, and that power over other men, power over the world was the one thing worth having, the one joy one never tires of, the supreme pleasure, and that only the rich possessed it. He told me that if I ever had any information of real value to give him, that he could make me a very rich man. You cannot understand the chance he gave me, Arthur. Chances few men and private documents passed through my hands.
State documents.
Yes.
Robert, I had no idea that you of all men could have been so weak.
Do you really think it is weakness that yields to temptation? I tell you there are terrible temptations that require strength to yield to. To risk everything on one moment, to stake your life on a single throw. There is no weakness in that. I sat down that same afternoon and wrote the letter this woman now holds. Baron Arnheim made £750,000 over the transaction.
And you?
I received from the Baron £110,000.
You were worth it all, Robert.
Arthur, do you despise me for what I have told you?
I'm sorry for you, Robert. Very sorry indeed.
Talk like that, Arthur. Don't say things like that.
Never mind what I say, Robert. I'm always saying what I shouldn't say. As far as this dreadful business, I'll help you in whatever way I can.
What is to be done?
In your case, Robert, a confession.
I can't. It will ruin me.
But you must.
No. This woman, this Mrs. Cheveley, I need to discover how to defend myself against her. You knew her before, Arthur?
Yes.
Did you know her well?
So little that I got engaged to her once.
Why was it broken off?
With money. Have you tried money?
I offered her any sum she wanted. She refused.
Then the marvelous gospel of gold breaks down sometimes, I suppose.
I suppose you're right, Arthur.
Robert, you must fight her. You must.
But how?
The precise idea. I can't tell you at the moment, but every person has some weak point.
I shall write to the Secretary of Vienna. There may be some secret scandal she's afraid of.
It's always worthwhile asking the question.
She must have had some curious hold over Baron Arnheim.
I wonder.
I will fight her to the death, so long as my wife knows nothing. Where is Mr. Trafford?
In his room, sir.
Tell him to have this sent off in cipher at once. There must not be a moment's delay.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Lord Goring.
Good afternoon, Lady Chilton. Have you been in the park?
Oh no, I've just come from the Women's Liberal Association, where, by the way, Robert, your name was received with loud applause. And now I've just come in to have my tea. You'll have some tea, won't you?
I will wait a short time, thanks.
I'll just be a moment. I just want to take my hat off.
Oh, please, Janet. It is so pretty. It's one of the prettiest hats I ever saw. I hope the Women's Liberal Association received it with loud applause.
No, we have more important work to do than look at each other's bonnets, Lord Goring.
You have been a thoroughly good friend to me, Arthur. A thoroughly good friend.
I don't know that I've been able to do much for you, Robert, as yet.
You have enabled me to tell the truth. That is something. I would to God I could have told the truth. Lived the truth. I shall see you again soon, shan't I, Arthur?
Yes, I shall come around tomorrow morning. Should you want me tonight, send around a note to Cousin Jude.
Thank you.
You're not going, Robert?
I have some letters to write, dear.
No. Robert, you work too hard. You never seem to think of yourself, and you're looking so tired.
It is nothing, dear. Nothing.
Do sit down. I'm so glad you called. I wanted to talk to you about...
You wanted to talk to me about this sheep.
Yes, you guessed it. After you left last night, I discovered that what she had said was really true. Of course, I had Robert write her a letter at once, withdrawing his promise.
So it gave me to understand.
To have kept it would have put a stain on a career that has always been stainless. Robert must be above reproach. He is not like other men. He cannot afford to do what other men do. Don't you agree with me? You are his oldest friend. No one except myself knows him better than you do. He has no secrets from me, and I don't think he has any from you.
Well, he certainly has no secrets from me.
Aren't I right in my estimate of him? I know I am right, but speak to me frankly.
Quite frankly.
Surely.
Lady Chilton, I have sometimes thought that perhaps you are a bit too hard in your views on life. I think that often you don't make sufficient allowances. Supposing, for instance, that any public man, my father, Lord Merton, or Robert, say, had many years ago written some foolish letter to someone, letter gravely compromising one's position.
Robert is as incapable of doing a foolish thing as he is of doing a wrong thing.
No one is incapable of doing a foolish thing, Lady Chilton.
Are you a pessimist?
No, Lady Chilton, I am not a pessimist. I am only using an imaginary case. At any rate, if you are ever in trouble, I will help you in whatever way I can.
Well, Goring, you're talking quite seriously. I don't think I've ever heard you talk so seriously before.
Oh, do excuse me, Lady Chilton. It won't occur again if I can help it.
Oh, but I like you to be serious.
Really.
Gertrude, don't say such a dreadful thing to Lord Goring. Seriousness would be most unbecoming to him. Good afternoon, Lord Goring. Pray be as trivial as you can.
I should like to, Miss Mabel, but I'm afraid I'm a bit out of practice this morning. And besides, I have to be going.
Just when I've arrived? What dreadful manners you have. I'm sure you were very badly brought up.
I was.
I wish I brought you up.
I'm sorry you didn't.
It's too late now, I suppose.
I'm not so sure.
Will you ride tomorrow?
Yes, 10 o'clock.
Don't forget.
I shan't. And by the way, Lady Chilton, there is no list of your guests in the Morning Post today. It has been apparently crowded out by the County Council of the Members Conference or something equally boring. Could you let me have a list? I have a particular reason for asking.
I'm sure Mr. Trafford can get you one.
Thanks so much.
Tommy Trafford is the most useful person in London.
And who is the most ornamental?
I am.
How very clever of you to have guessed it. Goodbye, Lady Chilton. You will remember what I told you, won't you?
Well, yes, but I don't know why you said it.
I hardly know myself. Goodbye, Miss Mabel. 10 tomorrow.
Sharp.
Quite sharp.
I do wish you would speak with Tommy Trafford. What has poor Mr. Trafford done this time? Well, Tommy has proposed to me again. Tommy really does nothing but propose to me. He proposed to me last
last night in the music room when I was quite unprotected because there was an elaborate trio going on. I didn't dare make the slightest repartee, I need hardly tell you, or else it would have stopped music at once. Then he proposed to me in broad daylight this morning in front of that dreadful statue of Achilles. Really, things that go on in front of that work of art are appalling. The police should interfere. And then Tommy is so annoying in the way that he proposes. If he did it at the top of his voice, I shouldn't mind so much. That might produce some effect on the public. But he does it in this horrid, confidential way, like a doctor. I do wish you'd speak with him and tell him that once a week is quite often enough to propose to anyone, and that it should always be done in a manner that attracts some attention.
Mabel, don't talk so. Robert is very fond of Mr. Trafford. He believes he has a brilliant future before him.
I wouldn't marry a man with a future before him for anything under the sun.
Mabel!
Of course, you married a man with a future, but then Robert was a genius. You have a noble, self-sacrificing character. Such a bad habit. And then geniuses are always thinking of themselves. But I want them to be thinking about me. Anyway, I'm off to rehearse now with Lady Basildon's. We're doing a tableau, you remember? Triumph of something or other. I don't know. Hope it'll be the triumph for me. The only triumph I'm really interested in at the moment. Gertrude, do you know who's coming to see you? It's that dreadful Mrs. Shebley in a most lovely gown. Did you ask her?
Mrs. Shebley, come to see me? Impossible.
I assure you, she's coming up the stairs larger than life and not nearly so natural.
Well, you need not wait, Mabel. Remember, Lady Basildon is expecting you.
Oh, no, I must shake hands with Lady Markby. She's delightful. I love being scolded by her.
Mrs. Markby, Mrs. Chidley.
Mrs. Markby, so nice of you to come and see me. Come over here.
Do sit down, Mrs. Shebley.
Thank you. Isn't that Mabel Chilton? I should like so much to know her.
Mabel, Mrs. Shebley would like to know you.
I saw your dress last night. So charming. So simple and suitable.
Really? I must tell my dressmaker. It will be such a surprise to her. Goodbye, Lady Markby.
Going already?
I'm so sorry, but I'm off to rehearsal. I want to go stand on my head in some tableau.
On your head? I hope not. I believe it is quite unhealthy.
But it is for an excellent charity.
You are remarkably modern, Mabel. A little too modern, perhaps. There is nothing so dangerous as being too modern. One is apt to grow old-fashioned quite suddenly.
What a dreadful prospect.
Ah, you need not be nervous. You will always be as pretty as possible, and that is the best fashion there is.
Thank you so much, Lady Markby.
My dear, we just called to find out if Mrs. Cheveley's diamond brooch has been found.
Here. I lost it when I got back to Claridge's. I thought I might possibly have dropped it here.
I have heard nothing about it, but I will ring the butler and ask.
Oh, it really is of no trouble, Lady Chilton. I dare say we lost it on our way back to the opera.
Ah, yes, I suppose it must have been at the opera. The fact is, we all scramble and jostle so much nowadays that I wonder we have anything at all left on us at the end of an evening. I myself know that when I'm coming back from the drawing room, I always feel I haven't a shred on me, except a small shred of decent reputation, just enough to keep the lower classes from making painful observations through the windows of the carriage.
I totally agree with you, Lady Markby. One sees the oddest people everywhere.
Quite true, dear, but one needn't know them. I'm sure I don't know half the people who come to my house. Indeed, from what I hear, I shouldn't like to.
What sort of a brooch was it that you lost, Mrs. Cheveley? A diamond snake brooch with a ruby, a rather large ruby.
I thought you said it had a sapphire on the head, dear.
No, it's a ruby, Lady Markby.
Very becoming, I'm quite sure.
Was a ruby and diamond brooch found in any of the rooms this morning, Mason?
No, my lady.
It really is of no consequence, Lady Chilton. I'm so sorry to have put you to any inconvenience.
It has been no inconvenience. That will do, Mason. You can bring tea.
Well, I must say, it is most annoying to lose anything. I remember once years ago losing an exceedingly handsome cameo bracelet that Sir John had given me. I don't think given me anything since, I'm sorry to say. He is sadly degenerated. Really, this horrid House of Commons quite ruins our husbands for us. I think it is the greatest blow to a happy married life that there has been since that terrible thing called the higher education of women was invented.
Oh, it is heresy to say that in this house, Lady Markby. Robert is a great champion of the higher education of women, and so, I am afraid, am I.
The higher education of men is what I should like to see. Men need it so sadly.
They do, dear. But I'm afraid such a scheme would be quite unpractical. I don't think man has much capacity for development. He has got as far as he can, and that is not far, is it? With regards to women, well, dear Gertrude, you belong to the younger generation, and I'm sure it's all right if you approve of it. In my day, of course, we were taught not to understand anything, but modern women understand everything, I am told.
Except their husbands. That is the one thing the modern woman will never understand.
And a very good thing too, dear, I dare say. It might break up many a happy home if they did. Not yours, I need hardly say, Gertrude. You have married a pattern husband. I wish I could say the same for myself. But since Sir John has taken to attending the debates regularly, his language has become quite impossible. He always seems to think he is addressing the House. And consequently, it is not pleasant to see one's own butler, who has been with one for many years, actually blushing at the sideboard. And the footman making contortions in corners like persons in circuses. Why, this morning before breakfast was half over, he stood up on the hearthrug, put his hands in his pockets, and appealed to the country at the top of his voice. I left the table after I'd had my second cup of tea, I need hardly say, but his violent language could be heard all over the house. I trust, Gertrude, that Sir Robert is not like that.
But I'm very interested in politics, Lady Markby. I love when Robert talks about them. Some tea, Mrs. Jubilee.
Thank you.
Some tea, Lady Markby.
No, thank you, dear. The fact is, I have promised to go round for 10 minutes to see poor Lady Brancaster, who is in very great trouble. Her daughter has actually become engaged to be married to a curate in Shropshire. It is very sad indeed. I don't understand this modern mania for curates. I think myself it is very much to be regretted. But there are many tragedies in her family besides this affair with the curate. Her own sister, Mrs. Jekyll, has had a most unhappy life, I'm sorry to say. She was ultimately so broken-hearted that she went into a convent. No, I think it was decorative art needlework. If you will allow me, Gertrude, I shall leave Mrs. Jubilee in your charge and call back for her in a quarter of an hour. I shan't stay long.
Certainly did. I'd hoped Mrs. Jubilee could stay a while and have a minute's conversation.
Thank you, Lady Chilton. Nothing would give me greater pleasure.
Ah, no doubt you both have many pleasant childhood reminiscences to talk over together. Goodbye, dear Gertrude.
Wonderful woman, Lady Markby. Talks more and says less than anybody I ever met. She is made to be a public speaker.
Mrs. Jubilee, I think it right to tell you that, quite frankly, had I known who you were last night, I should not have invited you into my home.
Really? And I see after all these years you have not changed a bit, Gertrude.
I never change.
Then life has taught you nothing.
It has taught me that those who were once guilty of a dishonest and dishonourable action may be guilty of it a second time and should be shunned.
Would you apply that rule to everyone?
Yes, to everyone without exception.
And I am sorry for you, Gertrude. Very sorry for you.
You've seen now for many reasons during your stay in London, any further acquaintance between us is quite interesting.
I don't mind your talking morality one bit, Gertrude. Morality is simply the attitude we adopt towards people we personally dislike. You dislike me, I'm quite aware of that. And I have always detested you. And yet I have come here to give you a service.
Like the service you wished to render my husband last night, I suppose. Thank heaven I saved him from that.
It was you who made him write that insolent letter to break his promise.
Yes.
Then you must make him keep it. I give you till tomorrow morning. If by that time your husband does not solemnly bind himself to help me with this great scheme,
This fraudulent speculation!
call it what you choose. I hold your husband in the hollow of my hand, and if you are wise, you will do what I bid him to do.
You are impertinent. What has my husband to do with a woman like you?
In this world, like means like. It is because your husband is himself fraudulent and dishonest that we pair so well together. He and I are closer than friends. We're enemies think together, the same sin binds us.
How dare you class my husband with yourself? Leave my house!
Your house? A house, everything in which has been paid for by fraud. Ask him what the origin of his fortune is. Get him to tell you how he sold to a stockbroker a cabinet secret. Look at him. Can he deny it?
Go. Go at once. You've done your worst now.
My worst. I have not yet finished with either of you. I give you both till tomorrow at noon. If by then you have not made a speech, the whole world shall know the origin of Robert Chilton.
You stole the cabinet secret from money? You began your life with fraud. Tell me, is it true?
It is quite true, Gertrude, but listen to me.
Don't come near me. Don't touch me.
Gertrude.
Don't speak. Say nothing. To me, you were a thing apart from the world. Something noble, just, without stain. And to think now that I have made a man like you my ideal.
Why can't you women love us, faults and all? Why do you place us on monstrous pedestals? It is not the perfect, but the imperfect who have need of love. It is when we are wounded which love should come to heal us, else what use is love at all? You made your false idol of me, and I had not the strength to come down and show you my wounds, tell you my weaknesses. I feared I might lose your love. And so, last night, you ruined my life for me. What that woman asked of me was nothing compared to what she offered to me. She offered security, peace, stability. The sin of my youth rose up before me, horrible and hideous. I could have destroyed it forever, killed its record, burned the one witness against me. You prevented me. No one but you. And now, what is before me but a life of public disgrace, ruin, terrible shame, the mockery of the world? Let women make no more ideals of men, or they may ruin other lives as completely as you. You who might have loved so wildly, ruined mine.
Get my second buttonhole for me, Phipps.
Yes, my lord.
Rather distinguished thing, Phipps. I am the only person of the smallest importance in London at present who wears a buttonhole.
Yes, my lord, I have observed that.
You see, Phipps, fashion is what one wears oneself. What is unfashionable is what other people wear.
Yes, my lord.
Just as vulgarity is simply the conduct of other people.
Yes, my lord.
Other people are quite dreadful, aren't they, Phipps?
Yes, my lord.
To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance.
Yes, my lord.
I don't think I quite like this second buttonhole, Phipps. It makes me look a little too old. Makes me almost in the prime of life, eh, Phipps?
I don't observe any alteration in your lordship's appearance.
You don't?
No, my lord.
Then perhaps a more trivial buttonhole on next evening, Phipps.
I will speak to the florist, my lord. She recently had a loss in her family which may account for the lack of triviality your lordship complains of in the buttonhole.
The extraordinary thing about the lower classes in England, they're always losing their relations.
Yes, my lord, they are very fortunate in that respect.
Any letters, Phipps?
3, my lord.
Bring my cab round in 20 minutes, Phipps.
Yes, my lord.
Phipps, when did this letter arrive?
It was brought by hand just after your lordship went to the club.
That will do. Lady Chilton's handwriting on Lady Chilton's notebook. That is rather curious. I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you, Gertrude. I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you. Poor woman, she has found out everything. But what an hour to call her. I shall have to give up on going to the Berkshires. Well, I suppose it is always nice to be expected and not to arrive. Well, I will make her stand by her husband. That is the only thing for her to do. That is the only thing for any woman to do. It is the growth of the moral sense in women that make marriage such a hopeless, one-sided situation. I'll call her at one. I'll call Fitz. She should be riding shortly.
Lord Caversham!
Why must my parents always appear at the wrong times? Hello, good evening, my dear father.
Take off my coat. Which is your most comfortable chair?
This one, father. It is the chair I use myself when I have visitors.
Thank you. There's not a draft in this room, I hope.
No, father.
Glad to hear it. I want to have a very serious conversation with you.
At this hour?
What's your objection to the hour?
It is after 7, father.
What does that matter?
My doctor always says I must never have serious conversations after 7. It makes me talk in my sleep.
Talk in your sleep? You're not married.
No, father, I am not married.
That is exactly what I want to talk to you about. When I was your age, I'd been an inconsolable widower for 3 months. Damn it, it's your duty to get married.
I think I shall, father.
I wish you would, then I should be happy. You are 34.
No, yes, but I only admit 32. 31 and a half. I have really good buttonhole.
And I say you're 34. And there is a draft in this room which makes your conduct worse. Why'd you tell me there's no draft? I feel a draft. I feel it distinctly.
Oh, so do I, father. It is a dreadful draft. I'll come around and see you tomorrow. Let me help you on with your cloak.
No, I came here with a definite purpose and I intend to see it out.
Certainly, father, but let us go into another room. Your sneezes are quite heart-rending.
I have the right to sneeze when I choose.
Quite so, father. You see, if there is less sympathy in the world, there is less trouble in the world.
Do you always understand everything you say?
Yes, father. If I listen attentively.
Listen attentively, conceited young puppy.
Yes. There's a young lady coming to see me this evening on particular business. When she arrives, show her into the drawing room. You understand?
Yes, my lord.
It is a matter of the gravest importance, Phips.
I understand, my lord.
No one else is to be admitted but her.
I understand, my lord.
Oh, that is probably the lady. I'll see her myself.
Am I to wait attendance on you, sir?
In a moment, father. Do excuse me. Phips, remember my instructions. Into that room.
Yes, my lord.
Is Lord Goring not here? Your servant Harold told me he was at home.
His lordship is engaged at present with Lord Caversham, madam.
How filial.
His lordship told me to ask if you'd be so kind as to wait in the drawing room. His lordship will come to you there.
Lord Goring expects me?
Yes, madam.
How thoughtful. To expect the unexpected shows a thoroughly modern intellect.
His lordship told me that if a lady called out to ask him to wait in the drawing room, his lordship's instructions on the subject were quite precise.
How dreadful a bachelor's drawing room always looks. I shall have to alter all this. I don't care much for that lamp. It is far too glaring. Light some candles.
Certainly, madam.
I hope the candles have very becoming shades.
We've had no complaints about them, madam, as yet.
I wonder what woman he is waiting for tonight. What on earth writes to him on pink paper? It looks like a beginning of the middle class romance. I want you, I trust, I am coming to you, Gertrude. I want to trust you, I am coming to you.
The candles are lit in the drawing room, madam, as you directed.
Thank you.
I trust they'll be to your liking, madam. They are the most becoming we have.
I'm sure there will be.
My dear father, if I am to get married, surely you will allow me to choose the time, place, and person, particularly the person.
You would probably make a very poor choice. No, it is I who should be consulted, not you. There is property at stake. The question is not of affection. Affection comes later in a marriage.
Yes, in a married life, affection comes from people thoroughly dislike each other.
Certainly, sir. I mean, certainly not, sir. You're speaking very foolishly tonight. Marriage is a matter of common sense. It is a secret to your mother's happiness.
So my mother tells me.
Oh, Arthur, what a good piece of luck. Your servant just told me you're not at home.
Well, the fact is, I'm terribly busy this evening, Robert. I gave strict orders that no one was to be admitted. Even my father was met with a comparatively cold reception. He complained of a draft the entire time.
You are heartless, sir. Heartless.
Arthur, you must be at home to me. You're my dearest friend. Perhaps by tomorrow you'll be my only friend. My wife has discovered everything.
I guessed as much.
Really? How?
Oh, merely by something in the expression on your face as you came in. Who told her?
Mrs. Cheveley herself. I would to God I had died before I had been so horribly tempted to fall so low.
Have you heard anything from Vienna yet in answer to your wire?
Yes, I got a telegram from the first secretary at 8 o'clock tonight.
Well?
Nothing is known absolutely against her. On the contrary, she seems to occupy a rather high position in society. It's sort of an open secret that Baron Arnheim left her the greater part of his immense fortune. Beyond that, I can learn nothing.
She doesn't turn out to be a spy then.
Those spies are of no use nowadays. Their profession is over. Their work is done by the newspapers. Arthur, I am absolutely parched. Might I ring for something?
Oh, certainly. Allow me.
Thank you, Arthur. You are the one friend I can trust. I can trust you absolutely, can't I?
My dear Robert, of course. Phibbs, bring some hock and seltzer.
Yes, my lord.
Oh, and Phibbs. Robert, do excuse me. I must give some directions to my servant.
Certainly.
When the lady calls, tell her that I am not in this evening.
Yes, my lord, but the lady's in that room.
You told me to show him into that room.
You did perfectly right, Phibbs.
Oh, Arthur, tell me what I am to do. It feels as though my life is crumbling around me.
You love your wife, don't you, Robert?
Yes, I love her more than anything in the world. I used to think ambition the greatest thing. It is not. Love is the greatest thing. There is nothing but love, and I love her. But she has found me out, Arthur. She has found me out.
Has she never done some folly, some indiscretion that she cannot forgive you of your sins?
My wife? Never. She does not know what weakness or temptation is. She stands apart as good women do. I am of clay like other men. She is pitiless in her perfection, cold and stern and without mercy. But I love her, Arthur. We are childless. I have no one else to love, no one else to love me. Perhaps if God had sent us children, she might have been kinder to me, but God has given us a lonely home, and she has cut my heart in two. Don't let us talk of it. I was rather brutal to her this evening.
Robert, your wife will forgive you. I'm sure she is already forgiving you. Perhaps she loves you, Robert. Why should she not forgive?
Arthur, there's something more I must tell you.
Hock and seltzer, sir.
Thank you, Phibbs.
Is your cab here, Robert?
No, I walked from the club.
Phibbs, Sir Robert will take my carriage.
Yes, my lord.
Robert, you do forgive my sending you away, don't you?
You must let me stay for 5 minutes, Arthur. I have decided what I'm going to do in the house tonight. You see, the debate on the... What was that?
Nothing.
I heard something in the other room. Someone's been listening.
No, there's no one there.
There is someone. I see lights coming from the other room and the door is ajar.
Oh,
What does this
Robert,
mean?
you are excited. I tell you that there's no one in that room.
You've given me your word.
Yes.
Your word of honor.
Yes.
Arthur, let me see for myself.
No.
You told me there's no one in that room. Why should I not look?
Robert, this must stop. I have told you that there's no one in that room. That is enough.
It is not enough. I demand to see what's in that room. You've told me there's no one. So what reason can you have for refusing me?
For God's sake, don't, Robert. There is someone there.
Oh, I thought so.
Robert, I forbid you to enter that room.
Stand back! I shall know to whom I've told my secret and my shame.
Oh, good heavens.
What explanation do you have for the presence of that woman here?
Robert, I swear to you on my honor that that lady is stainless and guiltless of all offense towards you.
She is a vile and infamous thing!
But Robert, don't say that. It was for your sake she came here.
Are you mad? What have I to do with her? Let her remain your mistress. You're perfectly suited to each other. She, shameful, you treacherous.
Robert, it is not
Let
true.
me pass, sir.
Robert,
You have lied enough on your word of honor tonight.
Good
Good
heavens.
evening, Lord Goring.
Mrs. Cheever. What on earth are you doing in my drawing room?
Merely listening. I have a perfect passion for listening through keyholes. One always hears such wonderful things through them.
Doesn't that sound rather like tempting Providence?
Oh, surely Providence can resist temptation by this time.
I'm glad you have called. I am going to give you some good advice.
Oh, pray don't. One should never give a woman anything that she can't wear in the evening.
Just as willful as ever, I see.
Far more. I have had more experience.
Pray, have a cigarette. Half the pretty women in London smoke cigarettes. Personally, I prefer the other half.
Thank you. I never. My dressmaker wouldn't like it. And a woman's first duty is to her dressmaker, isn't it? But the second duty is nobody has it discovered.
You have come to sell me Robert Chilton's
Offer it to you on condition. How did you guess?
because you haven't mentioned the subject. Have you got it on you?
No, a well-made pocket doesn't have a well-made dress does not have a pocket.
What is your price for it?
Oh, how absurdly English you are. The English always think that a checkbook can solve every problem in life. Well, my dear Arthur, I have more money than you and Robert Chilton. Money is not what I want.
What do you want then, Mrs. Cheever?
Why don't you call me Laura?
Because I don't like the name.
You used to adore it.
Yes, that's why.
Arthur, you loved me once, and you asked me to be your wife.
Yes, that was the natural result of my loving you.
You threw me over because you saw poor old Lord Mortlake trying to have a violent flirtation with me at the conservatory at Tenby.
I am under the impression that my lawyer settled that matter with you under certain terms dictated by yourself.
Arthur, by that time I was poor, you were rich.
Quite so. That is why you pretended to love me.
I did love you, Arthur.
My dear Mrs. Cheever, you are far too clever to know anything about love.
I loved you, and you loved me. I suppose when a man once loved a woman, he would do anything for her except continue to love her.
Yes, except that.
I'm tired of living abroad. I want to come back to London. I want to have a charming house. I want to have a salon. If one could only teach the English how to talk and the Irish how to listen, society here would be much civilized. Besides, I have arrived at the romantic stage. When I saw you last night at the Chiltons, I realized that you were the only person I have ever cared for, if I ever have cared for anyone, Arthur. And so, on the morning of the day that you marry me, I am going to give you Robert Chilton's letter. That is my offer. I will give it to you now if you promise to marry me.
Now,
Tomorrow.
are you serious?
Quite serious.
I would make a very poor husband.
I don't mind poor husband. I have that too. They amuse me immensely.
You mean you amuse yourself immensely?
Do you know about my married life?
Nothing, but I can read it like a book.
What book?
The book of numbers.
Do you think it is so charming of you to be so rude to a woman in your own house?
My dear Mrs. Cheever, in the case of very fascinating women, sex is a challenge, not a defense.
I suppose it is meant for a compliment. Well, my dear Arthur, women are never disarmed by compliments. Men always are. That is the difference between the two sexes.
Women are never disarmed by anything, as far as I know.
Then you are going to allow your greatest friend, Robert Chilton, to be ruined, rather than marry someone who really has considerable attractions left. Is this how you men stand up for each other?
It is infinitely preferable to the way you women wage war against each other.
Oh, I only wage war against one woman, Gertrude Chilton. I hate her now more than ever.
That is because you brought a real tragedy into her life.
There's only one real tragedy in a woman's life. The fact that her past is always her lover and the future invariably her
Lady
husband.
Chilton knows nothing about the kind of life to which you are alluding.
A woman whose size in gloves is 7 3/4 never knows much about anything. Well, my dear Arthur, I suppose our romantic interview is at an end. You admit it was romantic, don't you? For the privilege of being your wife, I was ready to surrender a great price, the climax of my diplomatic career. You declined. Very well. If Robert Chilton does not uphold my Argentine scheme, I expose him to
Wait, you mustn't do that. It would be vile, infamous, horrible.
How don't you speak words? They mean so little. I offer to sell Robert Chilton a certain thing. If you won't pay me my price, you will have to pay the whole world a better price. There is no more to be said. I must go. Goodbye. Won't you shake hands?
With you, never. You went this afternoon to the house of the most noble and gentle woman in the world to degrade her husband in her eyes, to kill her love for him, and for that I cannot forgive you.
Arthur, I did not go to taunt Gertrude at all. I had no idea of doing anything of the kind when I entered. I called with Lady Markby simply just to ask if a diamond brooch of mine has been found somewhere under Chilton. If you don't believe me, you can ask Lady Markby. She will tell you it is true. That is the matter of the whole thing.
A diamond snake brooch with a ruby.
Yes. How did you know?
Because it is found. In fact, I found it myself and stupidly forgot to tell the butler as I was leaving. One moment. Is this a brooch?
Yes. I'm so happy to get it back. It was a present.
Won't you wear it?
Of course, if you pin it on. Why did you put it on as a bracelet? I never know it could be worn as a bracelet.
Really?
Yes. But it looks rather charming on my hands, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Much better than when I saw it last.
Where did you see it last?
On my cousin, Lady Berkshire, 10 years ago, from which whom you stole it.
What do you mean?
I mean, you stole that ornament from my cousin Mary, to whom I gave it to as a present. I saw it last night, and I was determined not to say anything until I had found the thief.
It is not true.
We both know it is true. It is written across your face.
I would deny the whole matter. I would say I never seen this wretched thing in my life.
You know, the drawback of stealing a thing, Mrs. Cheveley, is that one never knows how wonderful that thing that one steals is. You can't take that bracelet off unless you know what the spring is. And I see you don't know where the spring is. It is rather hard to find.
You coward, you brute!
Oh, don't use big words, Mrs. Cheveley. They mean so little.
What are you going to do then?
Oh, me? I'm going to call my servant. He's a wonderful servant. He always calls the moment one rings for him. And when he arrives, I'm going to tell him to fetch the police.
Police? What for?
Tomorrow the Berkshires will prosecute you. That is what the police are for.
I pray you, please. Don't do that. I would do anything for you, anything.
Give me Robert Chilton's letter.
I don't have it now with me. I will give it to you tomorrow.
I know that you're lying. Give it to me at once. This is it.
Yes.
I will congratulate you, Mrs. Cheveley. For so well-dressed a woman, you have moments of admirable common sense.
Will you help me on with my cloak?
With pleasure.
Thank you. I will never try to harm Robert Chilton again.
Fortunately, you have not the chance.
Oh, even if I had the chance, I wouldn't. In fact, I am going to render him a great service.
I am charmed to hear it. It is a reformation.
I can't bear such an upright, honorable English gentleman to be so shamefully deceived.
What do you mean?
I mean that I somehow find Gertrude Chilton's confession straight into my pocket.
Confession.
I'm going to send Robert Chilton a love letter his wife wrote to you tonight.
Love letter?
I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you, Gertrude.
Wretched woman, give me back that letter at once.
No!
I will take it from you by force.
My lord.
Lord Gory simply ran to have you to show me up.
Yes, madam.
Good evening, Lord Gory.
It is a great nuisance. I can't find anyone in this house to talk to. And I'm so full of interesting information. I feel like the latest edition of something or other.
Sir Robert's still at the Foreign Office, my lord.
Is Lady Chilton not down yet?
Her ladyship has not yet left the room. Miss Chiltern has just come in from riding, however.
Good.
And Lord Caversham has been waiting in the library. I told him you were here, your lordship.
Oh, thank you. Now, could you kindly tell them that I've left?
Yes, my lord.
My father's shibits are neither seen nor heard. I hope it won't come up.
What are you doing here? Waste your time as usual?
My dear father, when one pays a visit, it is for the purpose of wasting other people's time, not one's own.
And have you been thinking over what I spoke to you about last night?
Father, I've been thinking about nothing else.
And engaged to be married yet?
No, but I hope to be before lunchtime.
You can have it till dinner time if it would be an inconvenience to you.
Thank you, but I think I'd rather be engaged before lunch.
I never know when you're serious or not.
Neither do I.
I don't suppose you've read the Times this morning.
Good heavens, no, what did it say?
What should it say? Why, everything complimentary. The speech Robert gave last night at the Argentine Canal scheme was one of the finest pieces of oratory ever delivered to the House.
Do Chilton uphold the scheme?
Uphold the scheme? How little you know him. He roundly denounced it. This speech will be the turning point of his career, as the Times points out. Sir Robert Chiltern, most rising of a young statesman, brilliant orator, well-known integrity of character, unblemished career, represents everything that is best in English public life. They'll never say such things of you, sir.
I certainly hope not, Father. But I am thoroughly delighted to hear what you tell me about Robert. It shows that he's got pluck.
Got pluck. He's got more than pluck. He's got genius.
Yes, but I prefer pluck. Nowadays, it is far less common than genius is.
I wish you would go into politics.
My dear Father, only dull people succeed there.
You should find something to do useful in your life.
I'm far too young, Father. Youth is an art.
Why don't you propose to that pretty Miss Chiltern?
I'm of a very nervous disposition, Father, especially in the mornings.
No, I don't suppose there's the slightest chance of her accepting you anyway.
Good afternoon, Lord Caversham. And is Lady Caversham quite well?
Oh, Lady Caversham as usual, as usual.
Good morning, Miss Mabel.
And Lady Caversham's bonnets, are they at all improved?
They've had a serious relapse, I'm sorry to say.
Good morning, Miss Mabel.
I do hope an operation will not be necessary.
Miss Mabel, good morning!
Oh, are you here? Of course, you'll understand that after having broken your appointment, I'm never going to speak to you again.
Oh, please don't say such a thing.
Do you think you could
possibly make your son behave a little better occasionally?
I regret to say I have no influence over my son at all. If I did, I know what I should have him do.
I don't at all like what people say about me behind my backs. It makes me horribly conceited.
I'm terribly sorry, my dear. I must bid you good morning.
Oh, I do hope you aren't going to leave me all alone with Lord Corey, especially at such an early hour of the day.
I'm afraid I cannot take him with me to Downing Street to see the Prime Minister because it is not his day for seeing the unemployed.
People who don't keep their appointments in the park are horrid.
Detestable.
Well, I'm glad you agree, but I wish you didn't look so pleased about it.
I can't help it. I always look pleased when I'm with you.
Then I suppose it is my duty to remain with you.
Of course it is.
Well, my duty is a thing that I never do on principle. It always depresses me. So, I'm afraid I must leave you.
Oh, Miss Mabel, please don't. I have something rather particular I want to say to you.
Oh, is it a proposal?
Well, yes, I'm bound to say it is.
Oh, I'm so glad. That makes the second day.
Second day. What conceited ass has been impertinent enough to dare propose to you?
Tommy Trafford, of course. It's one of his days for proposing. He always proposes on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the season.
You do accept my hope.
I make it a rule never to accept Tommy. That is why he goes on proposing. Of course, when you didn't turn up this morning, I very nearly said yes. It would have been an excellent lesson to both him and you if I had. It would have taught you both better manners.
That damn Tommy Trafford. Tommy is a silly little ass. Mabel, I love you.
I know. And I think you might have mentioned it earlier. I've given you heaps of opportunity.
Mabel, do be serious.
That is the sort of thing a man always says to a girl before he has been married to her. He never says it afterwards.
Mabel, I told you that I have loved you, that I love you. Can't you love me a little in return?
Silly Arthur. If you knew anything about anything, you'd know that I adore you. All of London knows it except you. It's a public scandal the way I adore you. I wonder if you'll consent to have anything left to say to me. I've no character left at all.
I was awfully afraid of being refused.
Never have you refused by anybody yet, have you, Arthur? Can't imagine anyone refusing you.
I'm not nearly good enough for you, Mabel.
I'm so glad. I was afraid you were.
And I am a little over 30.
You look weeks younger than that.
How very nice of you to say. And if I'm going to be terribly frank with you, I'm a little extravagant.
So am I, Arthur. So we're sure to agree. And now, I must leave you.
Really?
Yes.
Are you going to see Lady Chilton?
Yes.
Well, do tell her that I've been waiting to speak to her Robert all morning.
Do you mean to say that you didn't come here expressly to propose to me?
No. That was a flash of genius.
You're first.
My last.
Delighted to hear it. Now don't stir. I'll be back in 5 minutes and don't fall into any temptation while I'm away.
My dear Mabel, while you are away, there are none. It makes me horribly dependent on you.
Good morning, dear. How lovely you're looking. How pale you're looking, Gertrude. It's most becoming. Good morning, Lord Rory.
Good morning, Lady Chilton.
I'll be in the conservatory under the second palm tree on the left.
Second on the left.
Yes.
Lady Chilton, I have some wonderfully good news for you. Mrs. Cheveley gave me Robert's letter last night, and I've read it. Robert is safe.
Oh, safe. I'm so glad of it.
Yes, there's only one person now who'd be in any danger.
Who's that?
Yourself.
Hi. In danger? What do you mean?
Lady Chilton, last night you wrote me a beautiful womanly letter saying that you trusted me and that you wanted my help. Mrs. Cheveley got possession of that letter. She stole it from my rooms.
What use is it to her?
I'll be perfectly frank with you, Lady Chilton. Mrs. Cheveley puts a certain construction on that letter, and she wishes to send it to your husband.
What construction could she put on it?
Oh no. Not that. No, tell me everything. Tell me all that happened.
Last night, Mrs. Cheveley was concealed in my rooms adjoining my library, without my knowledge, of course. Robert came in unexpectedly, and something fell in that room. He forced his way in and discovered her. There was a terrible ordeal, and at the end of which he left in anger. I propose to tell Robert the entire thing. It's better if he knows the exact truth.
You want me to tell him that? No, I couldn't.
May I do it?
No, the letter must be intercepted, that is all. But how can I do it? I dare not ask the servants to bring me his letters. That would be impossible.
This secretary's opened his letters.
Yes.
Who's with them today?
Miss Montfort, I think.
Can you trust her?
I think so.
Your letter is on pink paper. Would he recognize it?
I suppose so.
Is he in the house?
Yes.
I'm going straight to Mr. Montfort myself, and I'm going to tell him that today a certain letter is to be on pink paper is to be forwarded to Robert, and by no means must it reach him. Oh no. Robert is coming up the stairs right now. He has the letter in his hand. It's reached him already.
I want you. I trust you. I'm coming to you, Gertrude. Is this true? If so, my love, I fear that nothing in the world can do may hurt me now. You want me.
Oh, yes.
You trust me.
Yes.
Why did you not tell that you loved me?
Because I loved you.
Gertrude, you do not know how this makes me feel. When Mr. Montfort passed me a letter across the table, he had opened it by mistake and I read it. I didn't care what public scandal was in for me. I just knew that you loved me still.
There is no public scandal or any shame in for you. Mrs. Cheveley has given to Lord Goldring the letter that was in her possession and he has burned it.
Gertrude, are you quite sure?
Yes, Lord Goldring just told me.
Oh, then I am safe. Oh, for days I have lived in terror, but now I am safe. How did Arthur destroy my letter?
He burned it.
How I would have loved to see that one sin of my youth burning to ashes. How many men in modern life would love to see their past burned to ashes before them? Is Arthur still here?
Yes, he is in the conservatory.
Oh, I am so glad I gave that speech in the house last night, thinking that public shame would be the result, but it has not been so.
Public honour has been the result.
I think so. I fear so, almost, for Gertrude. Although I am safe from detection, all evidence against me is destroyed. Suppose I should retire from public life.
Yes, Robert, you should do that. It is your duty to do that.
It is much to surrender.
No, it will be much to gain.
And you would be happy living with me somewhere abroad, perhaps. In the country, away from London, away from public life. You would have no regrets.
Oh, none, Robert.
And your ambition for me? You used to be ambitious for me.
Oh, my ambition. I have no ambition now but that we may love each other. Let us not talk about ambition.
Arthur, it seems I owe you much. I don't know how I can ever repay you.
I'll tell you at present. At the present moment, on the second palm tree, I mean, in the conservatory,
Lord Cumsham.
oh, that admirable father of mine always shows up at the wrong moment.
Good morning, lady children. And warmest congratulations to you, Robert, on your brilliant speech last night. I just left the Prime Minister and it is decided you are to have the vacant seat in the cabinet.
A seat in the cabinet?
Certainly, and well-deserved too.
I am terribly sorry, Lord Caversham. I cannot accept this offer. I have made up my mind to decline it.
Decline it? Decline a seat in the cabinet?
He said no, father.
I've never heard such nonsense in my entire existence. Lady Chiltern, you are a sensible woman. Will you please prevent your husband from making such a...
I think my husband is quite right in his determination, Lord Caversham. I approve of it.
Good heavens.
I admire him for it. I admire him immensely. You will write a letter to the Prime Minister now, won't you?
Yes, I suppose I'd better write it at once. Such offers are not repeated.
Let me come with you, Robert, won't I?
Yes, Gertrude.
What is the matter with this family? Something here? Idiocy? Wretched, I suppose, both of them.
There's not idiocy, father, I assure you.
What then?
A high moral tone, that is all.
Can't understand it. Very sad, very sad. I shall not spend another moment in this house.
Oh, Father, do stay another moment, I beg you. There is someone I would like you to talk to in the conservatory.
About what?
About me, Father.
About the subject on which much is possible.
Yeah, Father, I suppose you're right.
Lord Goring.
Lady Chilton. You wrote me a letter telling me that you trusted me, that you wanted my advice. Well, now is the time that you should trust in my counsel and my judgment. You love Robert, don't you? Do you want to kill his love for you? What type of existence would he have if you rob him of his ambition or condemn him to failure? He who was meant for triumph and success. Why scourge him with the rods of the sins of his youth from a time before he knew you? Before he knew himself? A man's life is worth more than punishment. It has larger issues, wider scopes, greater ambitions. It is upon the lines of intellect that his life progresses. Do not make a terrible mistake, my children.
But it is my husband's decision to leave the public life. He feels it is his duty.
Rather than lose your love, he would wreck his entire career. Take my advice. Don't accept the sacrifice so terrible. You will live to repent it bitterly. We men and women are not meant to make such sacrifices. We are not worthy of them. Besides, Robert has been punished enough.
You both have been punished.
Gertrude, here's the first draft of my letter. Shall I read it to you?
Let me see it.
What are you doing?
I have just learned from Lord Goring that our lives revolve in circles of emotions, and I won't have you spoil yours as a useless sacrifice to me.
Gertrude! Arthur, how can I ever repay you?
Your debt is not to me, Robert. It is to Lady Chilton. But I would like to ask for your consent in my marriage to your sister.
Oh, I'm so glad of it.
Oh, thank you, Lady Chilton.
My sister to be your wife?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Arthur, but that is quite unacceptable.
Robert, I love Mabel. There's no other woman in the world for me.
Oh, but they love each other. Why should they not be married?
Do you really require me to tell you?
Certainly I do.
As you choose. When I called upon you yesterday evening, I found Mrs. Cheveley concealed in your rooms. It was between 10 and 11 o'clock at night. I do not wish to say anything further. Your relations with Mrs. Cheveley have nothing whatsoever to do with me. Arthur, last night you spoke of Mrs. Cheveley as a woman pure and stainless, someone you trusted and respect. That may very well be, but I cannot give my sister's life into your hands. It would be wrong of me. It would be unjust, infamously unjust to her.
I have nothing more to say.
But it was not Mrs. Cheveley whom Lord Goring expected last night.
Not Mrs. Cheveley. Who could it have possibly been?
Lady Chilton.
Yesterday afternoon, Lord Goring told me that I could come to him if I ever needed help, as he is our oldest and best friend. Later on, after that terrible scene in this room, I wrote to him telling him that I was coming to him for his help and advice. Yes, that letter. I didn't go to Lord Goring's after all. Mrs. Cheveley went. She stole my letter and sent it to you anonymously, hoping that you would think. Oh, Robert, I cannot tell you what she hoped for you to think.
Oh, Gertrude. Had I fallen so low in your eyes that you thought I could possibly doubt your goodness for a moment? My love, you are to me the white picture of everything that is good, and sin could never touch you. Arthur, marry Mabel. You have my best wishes.
Thank you, Robert. I hope she hasn't changed her mind. It's been nearly 20 minutes since I saw her last.
Lord Goring, I find your father's conversation much more improving than yours. From now on, I'm only going to speak to Lord Cavish, but always under the usual commentary.
Darling.
You don't mean to say that this clever, charming young lady has been so foolish as to accept you?
Yes, Father, and Robert has been wise enough to accept a seat in the cabinet.
I'm glad to hear it. Warmest congratulations. If this dog country has to go to the dogs, we shall have you Prime Minister someday.
Luncheon's on the table, my lady.
You are going to stay for luncheon, won't you, Lord Cavish?
With pleasure, and I shall try to get you down the street afterwards, Robert. You have a great future ahead of you, a great future. Which is more than I can say for you, sir, but your career will be entirely domestic.
Oh, yes, Father, I prefer it domestic.
And if you do not make this charming young lady an ideal husband, I shall cut you off without a shilling.
An ideal husband? Oh, I don't think I should like that at all. Sounds like something rather dull.
What would you have him be then, dear?
He can be what he chooses. All I want is to be a real wife to him.